We're going to need a lot of nutmeg today. Hold on. There we go. Special guest today. Can't wait. But right now, I want to welcome you into the Nutmeg Tavern. We are live. It's Friday, like we always do it on Friday, whenever possible. And I'm getting a loop back. There you go. Thank you, Aaron.
Sorry.
I am your host, Townsends, and we're going to be talking, well, not necessarily all things 18th century today, but all things. I've got a special guest, or I got my regular guest. Well, wait a minute. Sometimes
I'm not special.
In theory, called the co-host. We'll
Yes,
see.
right. Never received it in writing.
There's Ryan.
Hello.
On the other side of the console, Aaron is holding up the whole time vortex with his bare. It's like
the atlas of the vortex.
So we're trying to break the internet today. We have a special guest on the line here. We've got the Cowboys in the house. Cowboy Kent Rollins. Right there he is. There he is. We can all see him. Welcome in.
Thank you, John, so much for taking time out of y'all's day. It's an honor to be included in this, my friend. It is.
Thank you so much for joining us for this special live stream, and all you folks out there. We're going to have a good time today. Some of this is going to be inside baseball because obviously you get two kind of YouTube people together, and we're going to talk YouTube and the troubles and the tribulations of YouTube. But we're also going to talk about fun cooking and eating and all that good stuff. You know, I don't know. People were pointing out, and I just noticed in that thumbnail, it's like, well, we both have mustaches, we wear hats all the time, we've got dogs in our video, and we do cooking. I think it's odd. Tell me about how you got started in doing YouTube videos, Kent.
Well, mostly it was due to my little sweet wife, Shannon, but, you know, we've always cooked. I've cooked off a wagon now for 30-something years, cooking for working ranches, and she said, you know, we might ought to do a YouTube video, and I didn't know who YouTube was or what a video was at the time, you know, but, and we didn't work too hard at it at first, you know, and then we finally figured out, hey, this is a way to reach a lot of folks and have a bigger family and share some food and some fellowship and some good time, and we never look back. You know, I'm proud that YouTube is out there. We get to be in control of the content we have, and it's great when you can help people along, and I know you see that on some of your comments too, that, hey, y'all are a blessing, we appreciate it, and as long as you keep getting that stuff, you just keep right on cooking.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. You know, your experience probably, I mean, it sounds like very similar to ours. It's like, well, we started off making YouTube videos for one kind of an idea. You know, we're gonna. It's very one directional when you start. You make videos and you kind of push them out into the void, and you see just some kind of response. And I mean, if you keep doing it, something happens that's totally different than what you expected. You know, that when finally the traction starts to happen and people interact back with you, it completely changes your idea about what you're doing, why you're doing it, and what kind of, how, you know, you start to change your content to actually serve those people out there. Tell me about those kinds of, you know, relationships. They're strange. They're not normal people relationships, but relationships and the way it's changed how you make videos.
Well, for a long time, I answered every comment that come across our channel. You know, I'd get up 4 o'clock in the morning because I'd always thought, if they can watch, I can answer. You know, and then soon you were doing 1,000 comments, and then it was 3,000 comments, and then it was 25,000 comments, you know, and then my fingers got tired. And, but we have a large extended family. That's what we call them, because they feel like family to us, and we hope they feel like family when they watch. But we found out through all those people, that's where we really got the second title for our cookbook, because people that tend to watch us a lot are faith-based people that love to eat, and people that are really patriotic and love our country and God. So, hey, it was a perfect fit, and I know there's people there that if they don't comment in a week or two, I get to thinking, what happened to this guy? You know, I haven't seen a comment from him in a while, and we get so many servicemen and women that watch our videos, you know, still on active duty, and they just touch your heart and make you know that you might be a little tired of cooking, but you better keep on cooking.
Yeah, we get a lot of we get that same sort of thing going. We see people in the comments. There's only so much you can respond to that.
Yeah.
Some of that response I try to do sort of in the videos, or the live streams helped, because when you're in a live stream situation, it's sort of it's a bit more community oriented. The chat is going, and it gets a chance for the audience to interact with each other, which doesn't really happen quite as much on a YouTube video. Some of that happens in the comments, but when it happens in the chat, it's sort of like a whole different thing. Sometimes we'll be doing a live stream and there's a whole different conversation going on over there, which is fine and good, because it's good for people to interact. We are social beings, and we're meant to interact with other people. We're all not hermits, although sometimes we might want to be. So when you're interacting with other people or with your channel, and people are asking for things in your comments, what do you think? What's the most requested sort of food that you get?
Most requested food is people love a classic that's done many years ago. And people love a remake, whether it's the Big Mac, whether it's Taco Bell, whether it's Wendy's, Burger King. We did some stuff with Julia Child and Justin Wilson, and people really liked that. But you get all kinds, people say, hey, I wish you'd do some trap. I really don't like trap. I told some folks on a ranch a long time ago, an old cowboy asked me, he said, you like vinegar pie? I said, no. You going to fix one? I said, probably not. So I tend to cook what I like to eat, but I sort of broaden my horizon, and Shannon will throw a wrinkle in there every once in a while, like pot stickers. Have you ever done pot stickers? And I said, no, but I'm gonna.
Now I will.
I just watched your gordita video today, actually.
Yeah, them are pretty good eating. Pretty good eating. But a lot of my upbringing was I had a very loving family. My mother taught me how to cook, and there was never a recipe. But also a lot of Southwestern flair. I cook with a lot of old traditional chilies, and I like for my food to bite back when I bite into it.
Yeah, it's kind of fun to have this wealth of food that we interact with as a family, and you've done in the past, and then have these things sort of thrown at you, right? So it's like, oh, I've got to respond to this. I have to do that a lot, because some things we're finding in 18th century cookbook, they're just weird. Today we don't eat it like that. What are you talking about? That's weird. So that's part of what we do when we go to look for a recipe, when we're digging for a recipe. So sometimes it's this is the equivalent to something that's done today, and here's their take on it back then. And sometimes it's okay, we don't do anything like this. That's part of how we choose recipes. What is the thing that you go looking for when you're looking for your next episode? And it's like, what am I going to cook this week, next week?
A lot of times it depends on the weather, and we get so much different kind of weather down here. What you can shoot, what you can't shoot, what day can you shoot. But a lot of times I look for something, especially if we're deep into grilling season, which grilling season is year round for me. I want to put something on there that people think, oh, I didn't know you could grill that. When we did a grilled smoked bologna, which was 7.5 pounds of bologna, and then put a glaze with it, it become not just sandwich meat, it becomes Sunday dinner, And I try to look at something that's a little bizarre at times, but you can change it and maybe put a cowboy twist on it, or maybe put it to where it's got a little bite in it that it didn't have before, and pretty good. But combining different things that you didn't think would fit is probably some of the greatest cooking I ever did.
Yeah, it's fun to use a different ingredient, or use it in a different way than people are used to. So you haven't been a cowboy cook forever. You've done other things before that. What have you done that's your previous life? Let's call it that.
Well, like I say, I grew up ranching, Cowboy. Was very fortunate. Worked on a few ranches. Rodeoed real hard for about 20 years. Rode bulls. And the good Lord took care of me. I never did get hurt bad. Made a good living at it. Quit when I was 37 because the ground got hard. It wasn't that I couldn't ride anymore. It was just a lot harder ground when I hit it. And but in between those times, I'd worked for my uncle, who was a guide and outfitter in the Gila Wilderness, southwest New Mexico, and everything from elk to bear to whitetail to coos deer to mule deer, turkey. And it was the same kind of cooking. You just didn't have a chuck wagon. You just packed it in on mules, And but it's a little different when you're at 8,000 foot elevation cooking than when you're at 2,500, So altitude makes a great big difference in things. And I remember coming out of there in the late 80s, early 90s, and I thought, I'm going to buy a chuck wagon and go back to cooking on ranches. And come pretty natural for me because I'd worked on both sides of the fire, from the branding fire to the cook fire, and cowboys respected me. And it was always law that the cook made twice what the cowboys did. When I started many, many years ago, I was making $40 a day. Cowboys making 20. And them days start at 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, and usually ain't over till about 8 o'clock at night. But it's like an old man was visiting with me one time. He said, "We didn't do this to get rich, did we, Kent?" I said, "No, we done it because it was in our heart." And that's what has always kept me near and dear. And no matter how busy we get, I'll still continue to cook for some working ranches because that's where it started.
Hey, if you guys don't mind me jumping in, I've got a lot of super chat here.
Go.
It won't take very long. Thanks so much from Brooklyn. Enjoy the channel. John, I enjoy your reading Chapter 3 of Bark Covered Cottage, Townsends Plus. This week, Ryan, we look forward to seeing your next cooking video. Hot diggity, I dig both of your channels, so it's a treat to see you together. Cowboy Kent, could you please do a video with Natalie and Tara, please and thank you?
Gosh.
I did make my coffee one time.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, and we need to actually thank Natalie and Tara. They really shouted this live stream out, so thank you guys so much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
This is from Rob Poole. First Natalie and Tara, then Max from Tasting History, now Cowboy Kent Rollins, all my favorite YouTubers, and the Nutmeg Tavern. It's like YouTube Voltron. Not sure if I should wear my top hat or my cowboy hat for today's live stream. Is it okay to put the cowboy hat on top of the top hat? Which would make the cowboy hat a top hat? He's conflicted. John Carroll loves Cowboy Kent and John. Can't get enough of the shows. Greatest American food collab since Wolfgang Puck. Kent, could you try making some of the 18th century dishes on Big Bertha? That'd be a great video.
There it will.
If you don't mind me asking, I noticed the channel used to be called James Townsend's Son, and now it's Townsend's. Nothing strange happened there. We just made a change.
We just wanted it to be easier to say and explain. That's all there is to it.
We don't get so many people saying, "Are you the son?"
Yeah, it's like, just call it Townsends.
I enjoy both Townsends and Cowboy Kent Rollins. There we go. This crossover might be the most exciting thing ever. Amazing stuff. Great to see you on here, Kent. When's John going to get a chance to cook up on a storm on Berthia?
Hey, he's welcome in camp anytime. We need to let it warm up first. I'd hate for him to get frostbite.
Greetings from Tulsa, Oklahoma. Love seeing the fellow Okie on Townsend's channel. You are representing us well, Cowboy.
Thank you.
My next recipe will include mushroom ketchup and Red River Ranch seasoning. These are two of my family's favorite channels. Thanks for combining them. Another one, absolutely love to see my favorite two channels together. My grandfather loved watching you, Kent. So much happiness before he passed. We've got a donation without a comment from S. Brown. Maxter Cool says, thanks for a fun Friday, Townsends and Mr. Rollins. I will try my best, everybody, to keep getting to these. You can fire in your questions, and I'll do my best. There you go.
So a couple of those comments brought up the idea, and I did want to, dig in. You even had a special episode where you talked about Berthia, and I spend a lot of time right there by a campfire, usually nice and close, because you're all framed up with the camera. You're cooking here beside the fire. Your pant leg is just about on fire, not quite, but it feels like it. And it sounds like Berthia is not all that much better depending on the situation. Tell me about that.
The only thing maybe better, John, about Berthia is you ain't having to bend over or get on the ground. I cooked with a hole in the ground for years and years on ranches before I ever got old Berthia. And for them folks saying, who is Berthia? She's 347 pounds of just a burning hunk of love. She's an old wood stove. But it really helps not having to bend over. And in our country, too, when you can have a contained fire in a box when the wind's blowing 50 miles an hour and the grass is about 6 foot tall, it sure helps, But it does get hot.
Yeah, we when I built the German kitchen set where we do a lot of the indoor cooking, I specifically said, now wait a minute, most of the cultures that are cooking here in North America, they're right there on the ground. Even if they have an indoor fireplace, before wood stoves kind of come in the 19th century, at least for cooking, all these people are cooking on the ground, and that stinks. You cannot. Number one, you're bending over all the time, and then number two, the camera can't. Who wants to watch your butt while you're trying to cook all the time? So. I built the kitchen specifically with the German style hearth that was at waist level. Yeah. So that you get up there and you cook. It's a little kind of strange sometimes because it's a little high, but it makes it cooking so much easier. And I can tell that when you're cooking with Berthia there and you got 3 different places and you got the warming spot on the back, boy, I'm jealous. Let me tell you.
It's a Cadillac, it is, and we have a company, Hasty Baked Grills, that we're working with now that have just produced our next new Berthia, which is a Cadillac. I mean, we broke it out just for a little bit in a video to try it out, and it's sure nice. But the thing, too, that really just sort of bothered me all them years of cooking on the ground is, you dig a fire pit and you got dirt piled up around it, or you got rock piled up around it, and a lot of that stuff that was blowing in the gravy of a morning wasn't supposed to be in there, but you just keep stirring and mashing it up and hope it gets better.
Well, it's extra minerals.
Yes.
It's good for you.
Yeah.
And a little bit of ash never hurt anybody.
No. It is good. That's flavor.
That's part of, it's flavor. Well, it's some kind of maybe good, bad, we don't know, but it's flavor. I got this here. This really neat cookbook. Tell me about this latest cookbook.
Faith, Family, and the Feast. Like I say, the title comes from our many followers on YouTube, our family, and it come out at a time where we thought the country really needed a little more family and a little more faith. And food has always done 2 things: brought people together and nourished them. And that's what we wanted to do, was bring people across the world together. Let them know that they're family, and let's have a little food. It's totally ours. Me and Shan wrote it all. She took all the pictures, whether they be of scenery or of food. And the first cookbook that come out of Taste of Cowboy, in 15, it was mostly about cooking on ranches and what we had to work with. But this one's got a lot more fresh ingredients, a lot more grilling, a lot of stuff from the garden, and but still got the great stories and the great pictures in it.
Yeah, I am enjoying. I think the binding, the pictures are beautiful. You got lots and lots of nice pictures in here, and a lot of great recipes, and stories and all that. So, beautiful book. Congratulations on this. It's really, really nice.
We've wanted to make a cookbook for a long time, but we haven't ever been able to find the time to do it.
Yeah, I'm confused. How did you have enough time to do this and your videos? Tell me about your secret.
Well, most of the time you just stay up later at night. That cookbook there, we have a good book agent, but it's a 1.5 to a 2-year process. Time you get it all, turn in a proposal, and then you type it all, and then you go back and retype it, and then I think I'm doing pretty good, and Shan sees it, and I have to start all over again, because I didn't put no comma in it where it ought to be. and then you recook all the recipes. Even though you know them by heart, you cook them again to make sure. And that's when everybody in our local town really loves us, because there's so much food coming out of the kitchen or off old Berthia that everybody in town gets to eat, because we don't want to see it no more. But it is a process, but it's very rewarding in the end.
Kent, somebody in the chat's asking if you'll get to Utah on a book tour. Do you do many book tours?
Yeah, the cookbook come out last year right as they shut the country down. We had 7 weeks of book tour that was canceled, but it was really a blessing. People began to watch more on YouTube. They got a lot of product online. It was something to what we told ourselves, whenever we can, we're going to start back with the book tour. I know we were in South Carolina about 3 weeks ago, so we plan on doing more stuff and getting back out there and seeing the people that were on the list to begin with. And we go through Utah quite a bit every once in a while, because Shan lives in Elko, so it ain't too far from Salt Lake that way.
Yeah. Tell me about, kind of circling back around on that. When all the 2020 stuff happened in the spring, it certainly changed it was like YouTube was doing strange things. Our audience needed something different. Yeah. And I noticed that immediately with your channel, that it's like, okay, it's time to change gears here. People need something different. Tell me. Like I say, we consider them all family, John, and it's not just cooking. If you can cheer somebody up, or you can make somebody laugh just a little bit, or let them know that, hey, you don't have to cook this. We're just glad that you watch, follow along. We hope you feel better at the end of it. We hope you know that we love you, we care about you, and we wanted to pay more of a tribute to what was going on in the country that was good, not what was bad. Because I quit watching the news a long, long time ago, because they didn't want to tell me no good news. They just want to tell me all the bad news. So every day above the grass down here is the greatest day in the world, and we try to pass that on to everybody out there. And it's just, let's just make people feel good. And y'all do the same thing. I've seen it there. People made it through COVID due to people like you and me, and people made it through surgery. People made it through chemo, We had so many people that would reach out to us and say, hey, I just lost my father this week, but, we sat down tonight and we watched your videos. You just make us feel good, and it touches your heart. That way people are truly family, and that's what it's about. Yeah, I'm always, it's a strange situation to be in, where you're interacting with people, but sort of only by guessing. It's like, well, yeah. I think this is the thing I need to be doing right now. Yeah. This is the thing I need to be talking about. So it's interesting that we kind of have those same kind of reactions. You can just kind of feel it through the comments and around the people that you interact with day to day, and say, you know what? This week's video is going to be like like this, even though I didn't plan it that way.
Yeah, going to be a little different. I know there was a few that we sort of did some old Roosevelt stuff, to where we just sort of had a fireside chat. We'd just tell them a story that maybe come out of the cookbook, or something. But it was something that I think people needed to hear and see, because I know you witnessed it too. When all that was taking place in March, people watched a lot of YouTube. And
they didn't have anything else to do.
It was a great thing, but people found out pretty quick. Hey, people like you, John, people like me, and there's many more out there too. These people are going to help us get through this. They're going to make us feel better.
Yeah, and vice versa too. I mean, I think the audience's response and that helps.
Yeah, they're a blessing. They are.
Yeah, I'm always humbled by the comments that are, oh, you did this, you did that. It's like, well, I'm just doing my thing, and I'm so glad that it did what it needed to do for you. So that's always fun. So tell me, totally changing topic.
All right.
It's like almost all my recipes, if not every single one, has got to have a little nutmeg in it. What? What's
We try our best to hide it, but
We
he
do.
always produces
like?
it
I always
almost.
got one in my pocket. What's your nutmeg?
Well, there's really probably two. One of them's chipotle peppers and adobo sauce, and the other is garlic and jalapenos. You know, I mean, if you got all three of them, you can cook a skunk and make it taste good. So you know, that's. And people will say, "Do you have any recipes that don't have that in there?" And I said, "There's a few dessert recipes that might not, you know, but I like to put it in all of them."
Yeah, it reminds me. I don't think it had nutmeg, although it could have used it. We did the Parmesan ice cream one time, and I'm thinking, you know, you could use those peppers and whatnot in ice cream, don't you think?
Yeah, we have a green chili chipotle relish, and I tell people, I say it's good on everything, even ice cream.
Yeah.
And you can put it on vanilla or chocolate, and it is some fine dining.
One of the best ice creams I ever had was bacon jalapeno.
Bacon jalapeno.
Yep.
That sounds pretty good right there.
And then you roll it in breadcrumbs, you deep fry it.
Hey, let me hop in here with some super chat real quick. Love both you gentlemen. That's one. Kent and John, do you ever have an idea for a video, then test the recipe and decide not to do the video because it came out so terrible? Yeah, I've done that more times than not. You know, even the beagle will even turn his nose up every once in a while and say, "You know, Dad, I don't think we ought to put that out there next week." Sometimes good ideas don't always come out just right.
Well, you know, I don't know, because sometimes the worst things make the best episodes.
That's
so,
true.
you know, it's like, wow, this turned out terrible.
And I know y'all do it too, John, but people love to see real. You know, you can over-edit something.
Yeah.
I used to tell Shannon, don't show them that picture. That bread's burnt, you know. But, hey, people want to see it. And it happens. And I think that is a good thing.
Well, that's part of, too, being, that's the difference between YouTube and a television show, isn't it?
Yeah.
We get to show the warts and the burnt bread and the, you know, that stuck to the bottom of the pan if we want to, and a lot of times that's the better part of the video.
Oh yeah.
Because they can.
Yeah, they you know, people I won't say they love a mistake, but they love a blooper. You know, if you can run them through there, and there's a lot of times that I'll say, folks, you're gonna have to bear with me because I ain't got that with me, but I'm gonna run and go get it. You know, it's just, and you can't do that on TV. I've tried, you know, when I've been on there and I say, hey, we ain't got this. Well, you don't need it right now. They're gonna bring it to you in a minute. And I'm thinking, well, I'd like to have it now. You know? Ain't gonna happen. I know.
Somebody else in Super Chat says, two of my most favorite channel icons. The Thing says, two of my favorite people chatting together. Love you both so much. Looking forward to more great recipes from you guys. Shout out to Mr. Rollins from Norman, OK.
There we go.
Yeah.
Thank
Boomer
you.
Sooner.
What's that?
I said it's a boomer sooner.
Thank you, Kent, for doing all you can to keep tradition alive. Very inspired. Two absolute legends, you guys. Love both of you. So glad to see you. I'm in Kansas, and I'm thinking of doing a road trip to hang with both of you in the way. Y'all be safe and enjoy every meal and every day you have. David Donnelly is in Super Chat. I'm a big fan of both channels, but I've got to say my favorite recipe ever is Kent's biscuits and gravy. Sorry, John. Cody B says, can't lie, Kent turned me into a cowboy from his videos.
Oh,
So look at that. You're turning people into cowboys.
hey, that's good. You know, if I always told folks, you know, what people portray as cowboy that they might have seen in the movies or that is two totally different things than what really an authentic cowboy is on a ranch. You couldn't get most of them folks in front of a camera to save your life, you know, but they, we're glad to bring people to cowboy, whether it's by spirit or by heart. And I'm honored to have one more join the crew.
Greg Phillips says, please let's have a Cowboy and Natalie and Tara collaboration. I know Natalie is watching. They're going to put the pressure on you. Look at that.
They are that.
All right, that's it for Super Chat right now. Thank you to everybody that's firing questions in.
So the, we got lots of, recent YouTube experience. You've got some television experience. Tell me, kind of bring us up to speed on that and how that's different and the same of what you're currently doing.
First TV I did was probably '96, and a lot has changed since then. Different ways that they shoot film, the cameras that they use, the sound crews, the lighting crews. I did a documentary, was the first guy filmed in high definition in Oklahoma till the horse kicked the camera, and that was the end of that. Working for the Food Network or Nat Geo or whatever it is, CBS Sunday Morning, folks have always told me, you don't change. And I said, why change and be something you're not? I don't even change socks but twice a week, so I'm going to be the same person every day. But from you going to TV to YouTube, TV was stressful. A lot of it was competitions that I was in, and there was a lot of unknowns and stuff. Now, sure, YouTube, the biggest unknown we have is Mother Nature. We don't know what she's going to do from one day to the next. But there's not many people on our crew. People used to ask, how many people you got on your crew? I said, well, there's the Beagle, there's Duke, there's Sadie, there's Major. All of them are four-legged. Then there's me and Shan, and she's a great producer, a great director. She told me one time, she said, I think I'm going to get one of them monitors that you can, read off of. And I said, yeah, try that on. That ain't going to happen. I never know what I'm going to say from 1 minute to the next. So, and TV, they'd have one of them earbuds in your ear a lot of times, and I enjoyed every piece of TV that I did. But it gets a little crazy at times trying to keep up with what's going on, what you're supposed to be doing. I know Chop Grill Master was one of the most stressful things I ever did in life, but it was enjoyable when I sort of figured out what was going on. And then I told Shan, I said, you just need to cook. If you got a fire and you got some food, it don't matter what you call it, how fancy it is or not fancy. Let's just cook something to eat.
So I've got to say that I saw you on Chopped forever ago, and when you, I think initially you messaged us about getting together. I can't remember exactly how it happened, but when that did happen, I remembered you right away. Was that that competition thing that happens? Do you enjoy that at all, or obviously you're doing it, but is it really high stress for you?
Well, when that came about, I knew the casting director, and me and Shan were living on a ranch down in North Texas, and she called and she said, hey, Kent, we need you on this show. And I said, what is it? And she said, it's going to be called Chop Grill Masters. And I said, I ain't never heard of it. She said, well, you have Shan pull up an episode and watch it. And when I seen what was actually going on that show and they get their food out of a basket and nobody knows what it is, I told Shan, I said, I ain't doing that. I don't even know how to spell that food, much less cook it, And she said, it'll be different. It's on a fire, and it wasn't that much different. Sure, there was a fire there. And it was very stressful, really, the time. When you have 20 minutes to cook an appetizer and there's two ingredients that I've probably never seen in my life before, you don't have time to think, what if I did this or should I do this? You better just saddle the horse and go on with the right one right at the start, because you ain't going to change in the middle of the stream and you'll run out of time, But I just wanted to get through one round. But after I sort of figured out what was happening, I thought, just be who you are and cook and have a good time, see how far you go. We went to the finals and ended up second. And so I enjoyed every bit of it, but it was very stressful.
All I can say is I'm glad I wasn't in that situation, because I'd have just put nutmeg on it and been done with it.
Well, it probably would have won. Nutmeg.
Yeah. Ain't nothing wrong with some nutmeg, John.
Well, I think it's an underused thing today, but that's just me. What can I say? I do enjoy how you interact with your special constant guests that you've got there that kind of under the table. How do you deal with working with those? They're show stealers, really.
Oh, they are.
How do you work with them?
The Beagle has more fans than we do. You know, I used to think that I was somebody, but I can go somewhere and people say, how come you didn't bring the Beagle? You know, we really want to see the Beagle or we want to see Shannon. You know, he's got really good in the last 10 years knowing when to show up, what he's supposed to do. He knows he's going to get to taste everything before I get to taste it. But he's always, too, sort of in the right spot at the right time. And he's been a blessing, and we've been through some dogs. There was Frank the Wonder Dog that we lost tragically, and we did a tribute to him on an episode. But then there come Duke, who's a big old goober-headed dog that finally figured it out. And as long as there's dogs out there needing a home and Shan can see them, John, if you ever want to come back as a dog, just try to be one of Shan's dogs. You're going to be comfort, I promise, rest of your life. But now the Beagle, and he's done got up. He was over in that chair asleep, but he is the number one man, he is.
Yeah, our dog who's around the house is our Sophie, and she doesn't always get in a video, but I think she knows when the camera's around. No. It's like, well, you know, I'll just be in the background. I'll just be very, very photogenic at just the right time. Yeah. So it's pretty amazing. It's like they can read what's going on. It's oh no, now's the time.
Yeah, Sophie's nose, sure. When we made those mushrooms, the last video, she got about as close to food as I've ever seen a dog get without taking a bite.
We did a video this last week, and there wasn't any beef in it, and the big boycotted it. He didn't even partake. He sort of knows when you're prepping stuff what the protein might be, and whether he's going to make his presence known.
If you've got your perfect conditions, you know, it's like tomorrow you look at the weather and it's like, what is your, like, that's when I want to make an episode kind of situation?
Well, from Shan's point of view, filming, it's overcast, you know, but there's light winds, and I'd say maybe 45, 50 degrees. You're not going to break too much of a sweat at that. You know, when people see us filming stuff, and we film twice every week, probably in July and August when it's 113 degrees before you ever start a fire, it's not pleasant, you know, but and I've done it for a long time. But perfect would be an overcast day with no wind. That's probably never going to happen in Oklahoma. But, you know, and about 50 degrees would be good.
Yeah, it's always with us, you know, we'll be looking ahead to the next week, and it's like, oh, there's a day, there's no sun on that day, let's do it. And or probably the worst for us is when you get clouds and sun. So it's got cloud, sun, you know, Aaron's there getting the camera all set up, and then the sun comes out and ruins everything. And you spend another 5 minutes getting it all set, and then the sun goes under a cloud again. It's
We've got a light filter that we put up, but it's not real good in a 25-mile-an-hour breeze. We've had it blow down many times, and you just tell people, hey, things just got a lot brighter. That's all I can tell you.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't have to deal with nearly that kind of wind situation here. Thankfully, we're usually, you know, in the woods, in the cabin, and but I do like the outdoor videos, and you seems like, I don't know what, 85% of your videos are outdoors?
Yeah, you know, we've done a few in the kitchen. There's been some that we've even started somewhere else and finished in the house because it, you know, got to blowing 60, 65 miles an hour. And, you know, and people will tell us in videos, it really must have been windy. I couldn't hear it on your mic, but I could see the trees nearly broke in the background, you know. And but 85 or 90%, I'd say, are probably shot outside.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I think it's really interesting. For me, the location, whether I'm standing up or sitting down changes what I do and how I do it. I mean, just how I feel about, you know, doing the episode. Have you ever felt like, you know, some episodes they're just not happening? There's something wrong. It was, you know, it was ingredients, or it was light, or, you know.
Yeah, there's been times that when it was started out being a really beautiful day, and by the time you got everything set up, maybe we're on a ranch, and you drive back up there to take everything, which is 20-something miles from where you're at, and then you forgot something, and then you think, well, I can substitute this for it, and they might not know it, but it'll look like this, but it really ain't that, you know. And it just sort of puts a damper on things, and y'all know it well, John. You know, there's never really a set that you can't expect changes on. You know, I mean, like you say, whether it's clouds or light, or you forgot something, or something's not here that should have been here. And but that goes back to what I really love about YouTube and the fans too. They love to see it. You know, I mean, just go with it and let her go.
Yeah, I like the one where the guy crawled out from underneath your house in the middle of the episode. I thought that was really interesting. It's like, that happens.
Yeah, you know, that's what we call him, Bones. He's a good young feller, he is, and he's crawled probably under everybody's house in Harmon County and worked on some form of plumbing, you know. And I told Bones, I said, we got to shoot a video today, buddy. He said, I'm going to be under here. I won't be loud. And he comes out right at the right time. I mean, ain't no better. But you couldn't get him to say a word on camera if you paid him $1 million.
Oh, yeah. It's been many a time when, you know, same deal with us, whether it's equipment or, you know, the stuff you needed for the episode, and you get to the location, you don't have any other choices, and all of a sudden it's like, okay, you have to use some different piece of equipment, you have to, you know, substitute some sort of, or make up whatever food thing. It's like, well, we don't have chives. Well, there's some grass. Well, it's just, you know, whatever.
Yeah. It's same color.
Yeah, it kind of looks similar. Just throw it in there. So what, I mean, I'm thinking about both the idea of, you know, the cooking you do for the episode, and then that history that you've had of actually cooking in the field, in a not, you know, it's not performance kind of a way. You know, how is that, it's like totally different or, you know, the same for you?
Well, you know, cooking for cowboys on ranches, and bless their hearts, they're some of the best experimental people I ever had in my life when you're trying out a new recipe. You know, according to Cowboy Code, you never complain about the food. But when a plate come back clean, and then they come back for seconds and even thirds, then you thought, hey, I'll write this down. This might be worth keeping. You know, it's cooked in the same ways and the same method. I'm just not so much of a timeline that I think, well, I got to have this ready at this time for 17 guys to eat supper, you know. So it's really all the same. To me, it's a little easier on a ranch when I've got everything there because everything's already set up. I hadn't got to go, well, I've got to go get this in place or this in place. So really ranches are probably easier, but you never know about the weather, you know. And if you forgot something there, you just well forget it because you ain't going to find it. You're 70 miles from somewhere. No.
Yeah, I think the trickiest part for, I mean, completely different than cooking when you're actually you're feeding somebody or, you know, feeding yourself or whatever, is that no matter what you do when you're filming, timing is all messed up, right? So it's like, I need to see this for the shot. It needs to be cooked then, and then it's going to be stone cold when you need it in another section. And it's a super challenge, And for us, we'll start an episode, and then it's like, well, 4 hours later, now what are you going to do for 4 hours while it's cooking?
Yeah. You know, there's thank God for a lot of B-roll footage, you know, to where, you know, we start something, and if there's a lot of meat that we may put on a smoker or cooker, like you say, that's 6.5 to 12 hours long, you know, and it always works. You just sure am glad there's fast forward.
Yeah, there's never trouble letting your meat rest, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is right.
Hey,
you know, and there has been times, too, getting back to them good dogs to where I'd be getting something ready to go, and I've learned now to beagle-proof it, you know, to where it's not at his level, because him and old Frank the Wonder Dog both, they run off with a lot of good chicken one time that we was going to cook on the grill, so instead of cooking a whole chicken or maybe 2 chickens, we cooked a half a chicken. So we got close.
You're lucky you probably had any chicken left at all.
Right.
Yeah.
That is right.
I'm going to jump in here with some more questions. One, Kent, this is in the chat. Will you be at Wagons for Warriors this year?
Yep, we'll be there. We're be Memorial Day weekend in Lebanon, Missouri. We'll do 2 cooking clinics on Friday, and then we'll be there serving the public on Saturday. It is a great event. Talk to Steve. I think there's probably close to 30-something wagons already signed up again, so it'll be a good event.
And then another question from the chat is, how do you prefer your eggs? Do you sunny side up, scramble, or omelet?
I prefer them any way you can get them, especially if I don't have to cook them. But I do love a fried egg. I grew up, eating fried eggs. That's what everybody had in the whole house, and you never turned in an order to Mama. She just always fried them the way you wanted them, and that was however they come out. So I do like an over easy egg, but I do love a good omelet if it's got some jalapeno and some chipotle peppers and adobo sauce in it. And maybe some nutmeg.
There you go. That'll be extra special.
There you
Yeah,
go.
I think the eggs you get are the ones the cook likes best.
Yeah,
And then
that
you're
is
like,
right.
well, you better like that, because when I'm doing it, so they're going to be scrambled eggs. They're going to be just like X with cheese and whatever. And
Yeah.
it's like, if you don't like that, well, then you can cook your own eggs.
Okay, in the super chat, we've got 18th century versus 19th century beer. Are there major differences?
Well, I doubt it. I doubt it.
I don't think there's that much, if you want to call it any. I don't know.
I mean, there's American beer now in, the last 50 years. I think that's very kind of different than the beer we've had in the past, because we get it very filtered and all that good stuff, and all the, the floaties all taken out. I don't know if that's necessarily so true in the 18th or 19th century, but, beer, not much different.
I went down to Kentucky and I was looking for a bottle of ski. Do you know what ski is, John? It's a soft drink down there.
Okay.
And I was going to bring it back up here to you because I thought you'd think it was funny, because there's always pulp in the bottom of it. And the ski doesn't even have any floaties anymore. And that really bummed me out.
What is the point?
Sean Jones is in Super Chat. Thought of you, John, as I drove my 18-wheeler over Eel Creek. Love both of you guys.
Thank you.
Ashley says, I'm sorry, Ashley. I'm sorry if I skipped over you. She said, I think my Super Chat got lost in the shuffle. No worries. 2 of my favorite channels. Y'all have taught me so much about cast iron cooking. Ross is in Super Chat. I can't say enough how much I enjoy both channels. We've cooked recipes from both your channels several times. John, you've got interested in reenacting enough to pursue it myself. Can't keep supporting Vet and Semper Fi.
There you go.
David. David really, really wants Kent to work with Natalie and Tara. He really, really does. He has 3 pleases in this message. Adding nutmeg in mushroom ketchup changed my corn soup recipe from great to perfect. Greetings from the beautiful country of Europe.
There we go.
Oh, here's Natalie Lynch. Please forgive our crazy subscribers. They have their sights set, and we've lost control of them.
We've lost control.
Mr. Rollins, as a fellow cook, I have to know if besides your fireboxes, old Bertha, Christine, and Waldo, you have named other tools or pieces of equipment. Thanks to you gents for the channels.
Yeah, I've got a lot of things that were named Bertha in camp because they were always hot or they were always heavy. Anything that was ever heavy, I'd hear them old timers, they'd rope a yearling or something and jerk him down to the ground. He might weigh more than they thought he did, and they said, that come from old Bertha right there. That's a big one. So, but there's different parts of the wagon that have different names, and but hey, it's hard to beat a Bertha.
That's right.
This is in chat.
Yep.
Is Kent going to give us one of his fancy dance moves before the end of the show?
I was going to see if John would maybe show me some of his latest moves that he's got.
No, you see, I figured that really, it works out like this. So it's like, for me, it's nutmeg. For you, it's dancing. And for me, I'm like, I'll stick with the nutmeg.
I don't really, somebody asked not long ago, why did you start that? And I remember being little and standing in there in the kitchen, and Mama was giving me a bite of homemade icing that she's going to put on a chocolate cake, and she said, "That's good enough to make you dance right there, ain't it?" And I didn't do a lot of dancing back then, but I thought about it one time on a video, and I thought, hey, it's a happy day, it's a happy dance, it's a happy meal. And now if you forget one of them, they'll let you know for sure.
You got to dance every time now.
That's right.
A great collab. You guys made my day. God bless you both. Are chuck wagons still around out west? I imagine this tough but rewarding job for those making the food.
Yeah, there's not as many as there once was. There's still some chuck wagons out there that are authentic, and still some cooks out there. But it's not as many as they was when I first started. You know, a lot of the old timers have died off, and there's not a lot of young people that really wanted to join in on that tradition, but it's still there. And I tell people all the time when they say, hey, y'all are a dying breed, and I say, well, you can't see us going down the interstate at 90 miles an hour. You know, we're in a place that maybe a GPS can't find, but as long as there's cows, there'll always be a cowboy, and as long as there's a cowboy, there's got to be a cook somewhere.
Let me ask you an equipment question. We had somebody on the Patreon. I asked the Patreon folks if they had any special questions. Somebody asked about cast iron, and since you use a lot of cast iron, I use some. Most of what we use is a little pre-cast iron, but their question was having to do with old cast iron. It's nice, it's smooth, it's thin, it's so even. And if you had any ideas for modern manufacturers for cast iron these days, what you would recommend?
Well, you know, cast was made, a lot of folks say, too heavy, you know, to begin with. But heaviness back then retained heat, and that was a great thing, you know. I do have a lot of the old Griswolds and a lot of the old Wagners that are sort of thin-walled skillets but got a pretty thick bottom, you know, and they're lighter than what some of the new stuff weighs now. But a polished finish is probably as good as you can get. Not a ground finish, but I'm talking polished like it used to be so many years ago. Them old Wagners and them old Griswolds, I mean, they get slicker than any Teflon skillet you ever had in your life. And it takes a while for some of that new stuff to get there, and they're getting better. Everybody that's making iron now, everything has progressed a little better, but if they can just polish that surface at the start, if you can start with slick, you're going to end up even slicker.
Yeah, it's one of the things that was really my take was that, I mean, some pieces you might just need to, you know, actually send it to the machine shop and say, I want that smooth, and that will definitely change the whole, you know.
We sand a lot of them with just 80 grit sandpaper on an orbital sander. It don't take long. I shouldn't say many of them because a lot of what I got is old pieces that never needed it, but we'll do one for a video every once in a while and just sand it down smooth.
There you go. So, yeah, that sounds like, and most people can do that. That's not a really expensive equipment or anything like that. It takes some time.
You can do it by hand if you've got time. You know, it takes a little bit, but I have done it that way too.
Derek's in Super Chat. I love the show. Wish I had more time to watch. Is John going to do one of Kent's trademark dances? There's another question for you, John.
Yeah,
I thought I explained that.
Well, I have to ask it. They wrote it. So, John, are you going to start doing dances after tasting your recipes or feed your dog?
John, that's a perfect way to get into dancing.
No, you know, I would say that if I did a dancing, they'd say, you're trying to copy Kent Rollins.
Oh.
So, see, I can't do that.
Questlove's in here. Do you guys see that Daddy Jack died this week? Another great YouTube cook, cooking with the blues.
Nope.
I didn't see that either. James Glenn. To Kent, what is your favorite whiskey?
Favorite whiskey? Well, I cook with a lot of Crown Royal. It's probably a flavor that I really like as much as any. I've used everything from Crown Royal to Crown Black to Peach Crown. You know, it's a good blend. It's smooth, but it even cooks and gives a great flavor, a woody taste to a lot of dishes.
There we go.
Justin Wheeler definitely would love to see Kent do a Natalie and Tara crossover episode.
And maybe even dance.
Yeah. Well, they could probably dance.
Eric Manson. What is the biggest mistake you see people do when they're cooking? We'll give that one to Kent.
Yeah.
Biggest mistake, well, if people are doing it in a Dutch oven, the biggest mistake most of them make is too much fire and cook it too long. You know, it takes very little coals to cook something in a Dutch oven if it's good hardwood coals like that. And people will just set a Dutch oven down in a bunch of big old pile of coals and then pile it up on top and say, well, you know, at the house, I'll cook them 30 minutes at 350 degrees. Well, sorry, folks, that is what you call a burnt biscuit now.
Yeah, it's like not 30 minutes at 800 degrees. Hello.
Here's one. I would love to hear you both on Timcast chatting and chilling. Thank you both for all the hard work, smiles, and research. Thank you. John and Kent, favorite recipe published and least favorite recipe published. Let's get specific. Love what you both do.
Favorite recipe that's been out there? I would probably say the one that I enjoyed most making was actually good was our remake version of the Big Mac. The worst one I'd probably say was when Shan finally got me to do a bacon-baked cabbage video, and at the time I was not a cabbage fan. You know, I eat it now and I love it. It's even in the cookbook. But at the very first time I ever done it, I'm thinking, no, I don't know why people do this, but I do love it now.
I mean, you got bacon there,
Yeah.
but I don't know. Seems like a waste of bacon. I don't know, guys. There's been so many things I really, really like. Okay, so we know that crab one we did a couple months ago, Ryan, was really, really bad. But Ryan apparently fixed it. He went back through in his show, and he figured out why it was horrible. Thank goodness. But for goodness, I don't know. Seems like, you know, whatever I cooked last was really good. Let me tell you, those morel mushrooms.
Yeah.
Those are good. Those are really good.
They made me a believer in mushrooms.
And he doesn't like mushrooms.
No.
And I like all that stuff. I gotta say, I'm not that choosy. I like it.
So Cliff is he's in here with the donation and no comment.
Thank you, Cliff.
So thank you, Cliff. And I think there's one more that I've lost. There it is, Greg. I don't know what this is, so I'm not going to read it.
Well, before we go any further, I just need about 1 minute. I want to thank the most recent Patreon folks. This last week, new Patreon, the Big Lebowski, Lars Yago, Dark Lion 53, Jonathan Sinnott, Nam Lee, Robert Gwynn, Lisa Pratt, Mikey Hendrickson, Sean Reed, Cheryl M., and one of the folks on that sent us money via PayPal was Brianna Plummer. All those folks, thank you. Thank you. You help make what we do possible. And special thanks to all you folks that are part of Townsends Plus. Again, if you're interested in kind of seeing what we would do on YouTube, but plus more things than that and kind of experimental fun stuff, check out townsensplus.com. It is a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
All right.
What do you think, Ryan?
Oh, I've got some stuff written down here.
Good.
Oh, I remember, Kent, when we were talking before, you talked about being a hunting guide, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. You have any cool any tips on bear hunting for the folks out there?
Or funny hunting stories. Those are my favorite.
Yeah.
You know, everything that ever happened to somebody here that they told us as a story was funny afterwards, but it usually hurt during. Yes. You know, that's what the old-timers liked about it. But you know, we did a lot of spring bear hunts, and I'd rather hunt a spring bear as a fall bear, you know, because he's coming out pretty lean, pretty clean, and always thought they were a whole lot better eating. A little harder to hunt sometimes in the fall because he's pretty fat, pretty healthy, and not looking for so much anymore and getting ready to hole up. But I remember having a little lady in there from Georgia one time who was probably as short a woman as I ever seen in my life, and she had a heart of gold. And I put her on a mule that was pretty tall with the smallest kid saddle I ever seen in my life. And we went 27 miles in. We went further into the wilderness than anybody because that way we seen more game, bigger elk, and we didn't have a whole lot of people up there in our way. But she said, I don't think I can ride that far, Mr. Rollins. And I said, oh, yes, ma'am, you can make it, sugar. And we rode about 3 miles, and she hollered for me to hold up, and it's was already looking like it's going to be dark before we ever got there to begin with. And she said, I can't ride any farther. And I said, Wanda, we still like over 20 miles. And she said, my legs are so sore right now. I don't know if I can even walk. But she said, you will, and I'll jog to camp. She said, I run marathons. That's all I do. And she stayed in a trot between 6,000 and 8,000 foot elevation for 20-something miles. I never had to wait on her. Every time I looked back, she was there. And she was a whole lot easier to get along with than most of them 11 mules I had tied behind me.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah, I hear, I've never been hunting out west, but, hear about elk hunting and we don't have wilderness to any great extent.
Yeah.
You might have a mile or two of not houses, right? But you don't have we went 20 miles into Nowhereville and we went hunting.
Yeah.
That's a whole different feel. And you can imagine how much more the country was like that in the 18th century. It's incredible. And you can still get that feel that I'm nowhere close to any kind of town. You just have to go out west.
Yeah. We were on a ranch one time cooking, first ranch ever Shannon ever cooked with me on the Bell Ranch in New Mexico. It's 92,000 acres. It's about 65 miles from anywhere. The greatest thing about the place was the country and the people, but the next greatest thing was there was no cell phone service, which was a blessing, But the stars are so close at night, it looks like you can just reach out and grab them because it's so dark, And I thank God for places like that still exist. And every time I get a chance, I'm going to try to be in one of them.
Yeah, it's been a while. I think it's been about 15 years since I was out. I was out in Wyoming area, and just amazing country to drive through, spend time in, and a lot of fun. And it just is. It's so amazing how different regions have that complete different feel to it. Sometimes you feel like maybe this is bad or weird, but usually it's just different, and you feel like a different person depending on where you go. I am always just amazed by that.
So you seem like a pretty level guy, but when you cook with somebody like Bobby Flay, is that hard? Does it make your nerves run amok? What is that experience like?
I mean, when we did that deal for the Food Network, I never knew he was coming. It's sure a surprise. And I remember we was on a ranch and he showed up, and I remember this pickup pulling up, and they kept telling me, we've got a guy down here at the gate. Nobody will be interrupting filming today, and I can't see from where I'm at, but I hear a pickup pull up, and I'm thinking, well, that guy ain't doing his job down there. This one would never got there. And one door slam, and then I hear another door slam, and then another one, then another one. So I say, well, there's at least 4 of them, whoever. And he come around the corner, and I'm thinking, seems like I ought to know that guy. Watch a lot of Food Network at the time. But I looked at him, and I thought, that's Bobby Flay. And he come over, and he said, I hear you cook the best chicken fried steak in the world. And I said, might not be the best one, but I've had a lot of practice. And he said, well, I'd like to challenge you to a cook-off today on chicken fried steak. I said, in my kitchen today. And he looked at me and he said, yeah, the land of hot and heavy, we're going to have a good time. And when I found out what was going on, and he had never seen Berthia, didn't even know a Berthia existed, I told Shan, I said, we're going to fill every piece of wood we got in there. We're going to get her so hot she jumps off the ground. And I put him down there on the hot, and we'll see what he's made out of. And he told me that was probably the proudest he's ever been in his life. And I said, hey, just part on here, but I said, I'm glad you got to be part of it. He said, I'm ready to go back to New York City. There you go.
Now that is, well, that's a challenge for him, not for you. It sounds like somebody had to take the heat.
Yeah.
He was a good sport, but he did get hot.
We were looking at the history of your YouTube channel, and I think that about 10, 11 years ago is when you got started, right, on YouTube? Yes. And then it seemed like it really picked up about 6 years ago. Was that kind of coinciding with when your first book came out? Were you promoting it and using YouTube as a tool for that?
No, that was before we're sort of in the process of the book, but we'd still had the book coming along. But it was something that we figured out. I used to do a lot of not just ranch cooking, but catering too.
Oh, okay.
And we'd drive 150 miles, feed 300 people, drive back, drive 500 the next day, and feed 200. And Shan said, "There's got to be an easier way." And she used to always tell me, "Work smarter, not harder." And all I'd ever known in my life was you work harder. You work harder every day. And she said, "I really think we need to concentrate on maybe doing some of these videos," she said. And I can remember when we had 10,000 subscribers, I thought it was the greatest thing in the world, and still do. I never took none of it for advantage or granted. And it just seemed like we had a good time. They got easier to do there for a long time. And then we thought, hey, this is where we're supposed to be. This is what she's pretty much a natural at it. She's got some help now that does some editing with her, but for a long time I would come in here even at 11 o'clock at night when we'd finish shooter trying to edit one, and she said, "I love you, but I'm awful tired of looking at you." I said,
Yeah, I hear that a lot.
Yeah, what do you think about that, Aaron?
Yeah, John's voice is in my head pretty much 24/7.
I'm sorry, Aaron. I'm really sorry.
It could be worse.
That's funny. Do you have a favorite game meat?
Favorite game meat? I'd say it'd probably be elk. I do love a good tender elk. To me, they eat about as good as anything else. But I do like a lot of buffalo too. Some bison. Yeah,
there's some great. It's fun to read in the 18th century journals about people in Kentucky. Nicholas Cresswell talks about hunting bison that are going through that area, and he even has the story about them sleeping in canoes on the river, and in the night a whole giant herd of buffalo come through, jump over the canoes and cross the river, and some of them smash into the canoe and bust it up, and almost luckily nobody was sleeping in that canoe. But buffalo, that's don't get
it's good.
Yeah. So is it mostly buffalo ranches now that you're dealing with it?
There's a lot of people in the western part of it anyway, I would say, that are raising a lot of buff now for meat and for hide, both. But very low in cholesterol. They're a good healthy meat. Ribeyes aren't hardly as big as they are on an 1,100-pound yearling, but there's still some marbling there. I've cooked a lot of them, and I would eat one now, John, if I had the chance. That and a piece of elk.
Yeah, there's a buffalo farm ranch that's up in the eastern part of Indiana, and they've got both the kind of forest buffalo and the plains one. So we'll have to connect with them sometime. We want to.
So in Super Chat, somebody says, "Hey Kent, where in Lebanon, Missouri was the cookout going to be? They were born and raised there."
It's at the only park that I know of. I don't even know the name of the park, but it's right in the middle of town, right by, what is that? There is a theater there. It is a great big park. They can't miss it.
There you go. Drive to the theater. Look across the street.
Yeah.
Hobby Craze is Well, they sent a donation and then retracted the message, so I don't know what that was.
Well, thank you anyway.
Colin, I've been telling Matt, telling Matt to watch Cowboy Kent Rollins for over a year now. I can't even get him to watch this channel regularly. He's such a disappointment.
Still letting people down.
Colin, I don't know what we're going to do with him.
Yeah, he's a troublemaker.
I don't know about this, Matt.
Matt, come on, Matt.
I'll tell you, I hope I
with
never
it.
meet him in person. Derek is in here. How did they used to wear deodorant, John?
How did they used to wear deodorant? Well, I mean, you'll see some references to things kind of like that. I don't have any of them off the top of my head. I think, stick a bay leaf under your arm and off you go. They also had kind of, perfumey things they would do to cover up whatnot. But I think they just got used to people. Today we're very... It's like if you get a whiff of somebody, if it's not perfume, then we're upset by it. But that's not necessarily true in the 18th century. I don't know how to go any further than that.
Yeah, I bet you never get stinky cooking over Berthia. That's for sure.
That's right.
You get a whole different flavor. I remember cooking at this festival one time, and it was about 96 degrees, and humidity was about 90%. And this lady hollered at me, and we had a barricade between us and the public, and she hollered, and she said, "I just got one question." I said, "What's that, ma'am?" She said, "I would really love to smell and view, because I would really love a cologne that's got wood smoke and sweat mixed together." And I said, "Ma'am, you can come right over here and stand by this fire all you want to and sweat and smell it yourself." I said, I don't think it's that good.
Hobby Craze also sent another one with the retracted message. But Joe B, thank you both for the hours of interesting entertainment. And Cliff says, Kent, how does an old cowboy from southern Oklahoma find his way to the internet? Coming from a northern Oklahoma boy, my first comment got lost.
Well, I remember when me and Shan first got together, she asked me, she said, "What's your email address?" I said, "Route 1, Box 318. She said, that ain't it, I knew what a computer was, never used one, but she not only broadened my palette, she broadened my horizon, and there's a lot of stuff that I can do on a computer, and there's a lot of stuff that I can't, but it's a modern world. Sure, I'm pretty backwards, and I'm not going to change on a lot of things. But if this is a way that we can reach people and let people know how much we care and provide a little entertainment, then, hey, they're pretty good devices.
Too true. You mentioned back there about, she talked about smoke, and that's one of the flavors I think that's truly missing from today. We're kind of missing that flavor. We don't get a lot of wood smoke. Maybe people are using gas grills, or using whatever, and they're missing out on this flavor that would have been very common, and it definitely is something different.
Yeah, there's pardon me, John. There's a lot of great things smoke do for food, but there's also a few things that smoke can harm. You can over smoke something with a really harsh kind of smoke that makes it pretty bitter. But there's so much flavor that you can bring out with different meats and fish. Those foul by combinations of wood, whether it be oak and a fruit wood, or if it be oak and other hardwood. I love to combine, but a little thinner on that. We're blessed with a lot of mesquite or cursed one. I don't know which one it is, but we'll never get it all cut. But I know a viewer, maybe a year or two from Alaska, sent me some alder wood, and I've become a big fan of alder, especially with chicken. But I use it some on ribs, but it's great for fish, and it's a really mellow smoke. I really love it a lot. But people got away from it, like you say. There's, there was a lot of gas grills that come out that didn't make no smoke, no flavor. That stuff they call charcoal briquettes, it ain't got no flavor. It's got too many artificial ingredients. And Trees was out there, and they made wood, and they made coals, made heat, and they made...
Yeah, too true. It's like you get to eat part of the forest in a special condensed form, and it totally is changing what's going on there with a lot of flavors.
I've never used one of those artificial smokers. What do you think about those, Kent?
No comment.
Okay. Hey, John, Kent. Oh,
No, I was just kidding, my friend. Remember some folks called me one time and they said, "Hey, you're probably the oldest original stick burner we've ever known." You know, I could remember burning wood when I was a little kid. My dad, we had a BB gun when I was 7, 8 years old, and he said, "Remember, if you shoot it and you kill it, you eat it." So one day, got me a rack out of an old refrigerator that was in the barn, put it on 2 rocks, built a fire. Crow is not that good to eat, I promise you. You know, but I'm really a wood kind of guy, or a good hardwood lump. You know, there's so much of that. If it's a pelleted grill or something like that, and I'm glad they got them for people, because you can set an app on your phone, you can watch TV, it'll go off, you go outside, but ain't that sort of like cooking in the house?
That's cheating.
You know, yeah. I've never been one that have had very many fancy gadgets in my life when it comes to cooking. But hey, if it gets people out there in the backyard and they're having a good time.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, that reminds me. One of the things that that I specifically do on the channel, more times than not, I'm not super cook, right? I'm not trained to do that, but I know that what people should do is cook for themselves. That's part of community. It's part of, it's part of family, and we shouldn't be scared of cooking. I think a lot of people today are scared of cooking. They expect that everything should be perfect, like you would get in some, expensive restaurant or whatever. And really the important part is cooking for yourself, cooking for other people, even if it's got to be something simple. Tell me your take on that.
Yeah, it's like we said at the first. Food has brought people to the table. Shouldn't be afraid to cook, because that's the way it's supposed to be. I mean, you cook, you have fellowship, you help your fellow people out. I can't tell you how many times when I was little that I might make a loaf of bread that we took to somebody else, that maybe had lost a loved one, or they had someone sick. There's a lot of folks now, John Shan talked about it once, that spend more time at a table with a cell phone up to their ear more than they have holding a spoon or a fork, and I think the world's a whole lot more gathering at the table. And let's get in there in the kitchen and cook something. I don't care if it's fried bologna, eggs, and gravy like Tom T. Hall used to sing about. That's some fine dining. And don't be afraid to burn it. I burned a lot of stuff when I was cooking. Learn by trial and error. That's the best teacher of all.
I still burn a lot of stuff.
Me too. I got to where I sort of like that flavor, John.
Yeah. It's like carbon. That's one of the recommended daily allowance of carbon you got to get every day.
There you go.
we got some work to do on these questions now.
Uh-oh.
Hey, John and Kent, love your channel so much. Love you from BC, Canada.
Great.
If you both came together to do a dish, what do you think you would both come up with based on your expertise?
Together? Is that what they're talking about?
Yeah, if you guys came together to cook something up, what would it be?
That's going to take us days to figure out.
Yeah. I bet it would be something that lives in the wild and got a lot of hair on it, like a bear.
There you go.
Beaver.
I'm down for
some
that.
deer.
Darren Caring sent 2 donations. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Nicholas in the super chat. I think we know how Kent has his daily cup of coffee, but how about you, John? Is there a particular 18th century way to make coffee on the daily?
Yeah, coffee, typical cowboy coffee is close to some of that 18th century coffee technique as you're going to get. So it's actually pretty similar.
Somebody's in the chat that said, I cannot super chat, but I sure can become a member. Thank you for your amazing content. Always interesting, always educational,
Yes.
always entertaining. You guys are the best. Thank you so much. Love you good peoples in the super chat. Love you both. Love your channels. My grandpa smoked meat every Friday on 2 Apache engine carrying cases converted, man, alliteration, tongue-tying me now, carrying cases converted to smokers and attached on a trailer. Nothing like smoke meat nostalgia.
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
Greg, no one needs to smell me after hard work. I'm with you there, buddy. What are the factors that make y'all's accents so different?
Well, it's where you grow up. That's for sure.
That's right. Yeah.
kinda-
North and south and east and west.
It never leaves you. Never it doesn't matter what
I
happens.
didn't even know I had an accent, John.
Well, what,
Did you?
we don't. I don't have an
Yeah.
accent. Everybody else does.
Not either.
I think I've got one because if I'm up here, they tell me I do, and if I'm down there, they tell me I do. I'm that hodgepodge boy. Elizabeth Pep sent a cup of coffee from a little birdie. That was very kind of you,
you.
Elizabeth. Hey, I think we mowed through them, and we only have about 10 minutes left, so
Okay,
let's make it good.
I got 2 questions. Number 1,
All right.
tell me, I mean, in every episode, almost every episode, occasionally not, but in almost every episode, I have to wear a hat because, well, I just have to because they did. Tell me about your hat.
Well, I've got, I used to have 2 hats, all I ever had. One of them was an old hat before he died. I wore it for about 10 years and I hung it up, never swore to wear it again. Shan come along and I remember sending her a hat before we ever really got to dating much that I'd come off a ranch and sent it to her in a box, and she said it smelled like smoke. It was just a great thing, smoke, and she said, I don't smell near as good as it used to. And I said, yeah, I understand, but it has always been something that I wore all my life. We grew up wearing hats. Many, many years ago, you wore a felt hat from up till maybe Memorial Day, and then you might wear a straw hat after that, But there was 2 things my dad taught me. Never judge a man by the horse he rides or the hat that's on his head.
Okay. What's your take on that, though? I mean, what does that mean to you? When you say that, it's like...
Well, I've seen a lot of old men that were working on ranches, might not have had a cowboy hat on, might have been an old baseball cap or some old conductor's cap, that could rope any yearling in the world in a 40-mile-an-hour breeze with a rope you never seen in your life, And their old horse they got out of that trailer might not be the best looking thing ever, but I guarantee you he's gonna get the job done. So it's just like people, you just don't first make it an outward judgment just by appearance.
Yeah, I think you can take that in a lot of different ways, and I know it's super good advice, and it's really one of those. I think it's something it's really kind of instilled in you over time as you interact with more and more people, and you realize that sometimes your first judgments on people, you look at your hat or your shoes or whatever, and you have some kind of snap judgment, and boy, it can be so wrong. You can really do yourself a disservice by jumping on that, and it's a good advice for young folks.
It is. We always tell people you should never look down on someone unless you're looking down to give them a hand up.
Yep. I wrote this down before that story came back with the hat. Tell me about, smells are one of the things that really connects people with memories, and I think food's right there because really, I mean, tastes and smells are just totally interlocked. Do you have special memories connected with particular flavors, smells?
We branded a lot of cattle when I was little and even when I got older. But I can always remember that smell. Wasn't one that was always pleasant to me, but it brought about pleasant memories because I was getting to work with a group of old men that I thought were legends, But also there was that group of women that were ranch wives that brought food out there that you knew you was going to eat some of the best food in your life. So, on a good spring day, you smell somebody with a branding fire branding some cattle, and it always takes me back to being across the river on some little old ranch to where you just see all them old men riding around an old pen roping cattle, and know that you're going to eat good when them women get it out there.
Yeah, I was. For me, sometimes those memory smells can really kind of catch you off guard. Bring back something that you had totally forgotten about. It's always a really interesting, sometimes not good experience, but always interesting experience. And those flavors, something you haven't eaten in a long time. We just did the morel episode, and for here, you get those mushrooms are like 2 weeks out of the year maximum, and there are some years you never get that, and that's one of those flavors that you just can't reproduce it. It's like, well, it's going to happen when it happens, and it brings back all those fond memories of that particular time of year, that particular place. It's always great.
Good eating they are.
Yeah. Yep.
I got a little cleanup work to do. You still got another question?
No, I'm good.
Okay, we're gonna work through these real quick.
Okay.
Nana Nana Moo Moo is in here saying Nana Nana Moo Moo type things, and it's funny, but I don't have time to read it, so thank you. Derek, why does it keep glitching when he talks? That is weird. I think that's a joke at an accent. Heather V, this is awesome. Husband watches Kent for recipes, and I watch Townsend's Hello from Dodge City, the home of Matt Dillon.
There you go.
Matt Dillon.
Terry, work with a bunch of scouts cooking over coals. It's great to see a kid light up when they learn how to cook over fire and coals. Kent's Upside Down Pizza is a favorite for our troop, by the way.
Great.
Ken Duncan sent in... Oh, sorry, Kent.
Go ahead.
Ken Duncan sent in a donation without any questions, so thank you so much for that. Nana Nana Moo Moo says something else silly, and that's all. We're cleaned up. We gotta thank Kent here for joining us.
Yeah. Again, if you guys are interested, make sure to check out Kent's new cookbook. I'm excited by it and really enjoy it. So thank you so much, Kent. You've done a great job. Hopefully, we haven't totally broken the internet, but I know that where were we at on likes?
3,000.
Only 3,000 likes. Come on, guys. You can do better than that. Kent,
I thank you all, John, for having us on. It was great. I'm glad we finally got to do this, but me and you still going to get together and cook something.
Oh, yeah. It'll be a great time when we can finally get together, and things are slowly, getting back to normal. Yeah. So it'll be great whenever we get a chance to do that, and it'll be a lot of fun. So thank you for working through all that technical stuff, making all this thing happen. It's always a tricky monster to make all this fun technology to go. But thank you so much. Make sure to check out Kent's channel. If you're not already a big fan, you will be. And thank you, Ryan, Aaron, for you guys, all that great hard work. Everyone who was there. Go ahead. Bring back Kent.
Oh, okay. Hold on.
He's going to have to work. Kent, thank you so much. I hope you have.
Oh, thank you much.
I hope you have a great day. And everyone there, everyone that's on the Super Chat today, all you Patreon folks, everyone else who makes this channel happen, whether it's just commenting or whatever, thank you so much. And I hope you have a tremendous, tremendous weekend. Thank you. Thanks for watching.